the sound of knees dragging across sacred marble. October 30th, 1501. You're sitting in the private apartments of the Pope. You can't move, you can't speak. Your wine cup trembles in your hand, but you don't dare set it down, because setting it down means admitting this is real. Around you, cardinals in scarlet robes stare at the floor. Some are praying, some have closed their eyes entirely. And between their legs, crawling like animals across the sacred ground of the Vatican, 50 naked women collect chestnuts, while the Vicar of Christ watches from his throne. He's laughing, but here's what freezes your blood. This is just the entertainment. The bride doesn't know yet what her father has planned for her before sunrise. Something so calculated, so surgically cruel that it won't kill her body. It will destroy everything else. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover has been buried for 500 years. And by the end, you'll understand why. This is the story of Lucrezia Borgia, and the night that should have damned the Vatican forever. If this story grips you, drop a like. It takes a second and helps us pull more voices out of the darkness. 3 weeks earlier, December 1501, a man rides through the gates of Rome like a condemned prisoner walking to the scaffold. Alfonso d'Este, heir to the Duchy of Ferrara, 25 years old, from a family that has ruled northern Italy for generations, and he's terrified. You're riding into the most powerful city on earth to marry a woman whose last 2 husbands are dead. The first was declared impotent, publicly humiliated, discarded when he was no longer useful. The second was stabbed on the Vatican steps. When he survived, her brother sent men to strangle him in his bed, while Lucrezia screamed and pounded on the door. That was 18 months ago. Now it's your turn. Alfonso tried everything to escape. Excuses, delays. His father begged the Pope to choose someone else. The response from Rome was simple: accept the alliance or watch Cesare's armies reduce Ferrara to ash. So here he is. The reception is designed to break him. Pope Alexander VI receives him in the throne room. 69 years old, corpulent, radiating power like heat from a furnace. His eyes scan Alfonso the way a butcher examines livestock. To his right stands Cesare Borgia, 26, cardinal turned general, the man who strangled Alfonso's predecessor. He doesn't speak during the entire reception. He just watches, a faint smile at his lips, like a cat that's already decided when to strike. For 3 weeks, Alfonso endures humiliations disguised as celebrations, banquets where he's seated next to courtesans while cardinals smirk, hunting parties where Cesare demonstrates his marksmanship, receptions where the Pope jokes about his dead predecessors. Every night, Alfonso writes letters to his father that he knows are being read, and wonders which day will be his last. Then comes the wedding, the papal chapel, golden walls reflecting, candlelight, frescoes of saints and angels looking down on the assembly, the smell of incense so thick it coats your throat. Pope Alexander VI officiates personally. His voice echoes through the chamber as he speaks the sacred words that will bind his daughter to her third husband. Alfonso stands at the altar. His hands won't stop shaking. He can feel Cesare's eyes on the back of his neck throughout the entire ceremony. Cold, patient, the gaze of a predator watching prey that doesn't realize it's already caught. And beside him stands Lucrezia, 21 years old, golden hair arranged in elaborate braids, threaded with pearls, a gown of silk and gold worth more than most Italian villages. She's beautiful, in a way that almost hurts to look at. But her eyes are what stop you. They're empty, not sad, not angry, not frightened, just vacant, like someone who left their body years ago and never fully returned. The night before, while her handmaidens prepared her trousseau, Lucrezia had stood at her window, looking out at Rome, the city where she was born, the city where she watched her second husband bleed on the steps, the city that had taken everything from her and kept demanding more. One of her ladies, a young girl from Naples, had asked if she was excited for the wedding. Lucrezia had smiled. The kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes, the kind of smile you learn when showing real emotion, is dangerous. Excited, she repeated, like she was testing a word from a foreign language. Yes, of course. She didn't sleep that night. She sat in the chapel of Santa Maria in Portico until dawn, kneeling on cold stone, praying to a God who had never answered. Not when they annulled her first marriage and called her used goods. Not when they murdered Alfonso in the room next to hers. Not once in 21 years. But she prayed anyway, because prayer was the only thing left that belonged to her. Now she stands at the altar, speaking vows she doesn't believe, to a man she doesn't know, in a ceremony controlled by a father who has never seen her as anything but currency. This is a woman who has learned that showing emotion in her family is dangerous, that tears can be weaponized, that love can be twisted into a knife and buried in your chest. She speaks her vows in a voice so flat it barely registers as human. Alfonso responds in kind. Two people performing a ritual neither believes in, surrounded by men who have already decided their fate. The rings are exchanged. The Pope pronounces them married. And then Alexander smiles, that wide, predatory smile, and announces that now the true celebration can begin. The guests are led to the Borgia apartments for the wedding feast. The doors close behind them. Guards take position at every exit. And Lucrezia feels something she hasn't felt in years. Not fear, she's beyond fear, something colder. The certainty that her father is about to teach her a new lesson. And whatever it is, she will survive it the way she's survived everything else, by going somewhere inside herself where they can't reach, by becoming empty before they can empty her. The feast begins like any aristocratic wedding. Roasted peacock with gold leaf, mountains of exotic fruits, wine that costs more per bottle than a peasant earns in a year. Musicians play. Poets recite verses praising the bride and groom. Laughter echoes off the painted walls. Hours pass. The wine flows. Conversation grows louder, looser. Some guests begin to relax. Alfonso almost lets himself believe this is just a wedding. Then he notices the guards have multiplied. Then he notices Cesare hasn't touched his wine all night. Then he notices the Pope is staring at him. Not warmly, expectantly, like a man waiting for a performance to begin. Midnight approaches. Cesare stands. The room falls silent instantly, as if someone has cut the strings of every voice at once. He walks to the side doors and gives a quiet order. The doors open. 50 women enter the hall. They're dressed in magnificent gowns, velvet and silk, adorned with jewels that catch the candlelight. These aren't common prostitutes. These are Rome's elite courtesans, women who normally serve cardinals, ambassadors, the highest levels of power. But their eyes are wrong, wide with fear, darting toward the exits that are blocked by armed guards. Pope Alexander rises from his throne, wine cup raised, smile widening. Now, he announces, the true entertainment begins. At his command, the women begin to undress. One by one, gowns fall to the marble floor. Silk puddles around bare feet. 50 women stand completely naked before the assembled princes of the church. Some cardinals look away. Others clutch rosaries, lips moving in prayers that feel obscene in this context. A few younger clergy lean forward, drunk enough to forget themselves. Alfonso stares at his plate. His knuckles are white around his knife. But Alexander isn't finished. Servants enter carrying baskets of chestnuts. They scatter them across the floor, hundreds rolling between the feet of horrified guests, disappearing under tables, spreading across the sacred marble. Then the Pope announces the rules. The women must crawl on all fours and collect the chestnuts. Whoever gathers the most wins prizes from the papal treasury. Silk robes, golden necklaces, jewels. Picture this: 50 naked women on their hands and knees, crawling between the legs of cardinals and bishops, beneath frescoes of the Virgin Mary, across floors where popes have walked for centuries. The sound. Knees scraping stone. The clink of chestnuts gathered in trembling hands, stifled sobs, and above it all, laughter. The Pope laughing, Cesare laughing, the sound bouncing off golden walls like something from hell's own banquet. Some guests join in, throwing chestnuts farther, making the women crawl longer distances. Others sit frozen, minds unable to process what they're witnessing. An elderly cardinal stands and tries to leave. Guards block his path. He sits back down and doesn't lift his head again for the rest of the night. And Lucrezia sits motionless beside Alfonso. Her face betrays nothing. She's learned to go somewhere else inside herself when her family performs. It's the only way to survive. The banquet continues for hours. When it finally ends, the courtesans huddle in corners, clutching their humiliating prizes, unable to look at anyone. Alfonso thinks it's over. He's wrong, because now the Pope rises again, and the words he speaks next will echo through history for 500 years. The sacred duty of marriage, Alexander announces, must now be fulfilled. In any normal wedding, consummation happens privately. Perhaps witnesses verify the sheets the next morning. Uncomfortable, but standard for noble families. What Alexander orders is something else entirely. Alfonso and Lucrezia will consummate their marriage tonight, not once, 3 times, and every person in this room will serve as witness. The hall goes silent. Not quiet, silent. The complete absence of sound that happens when an entire room stops breathing at once. Even Cesare shows a flicker of surprise. Even he didn't expect his father to go this far. Alfonso stands. His face has gone the colour of old bone. He's a prince. He's spent his entire life training in dignity, honour, the codes of nobility. And he's just been ordered to perform the most intimate act of his life as public theatre. He looks at the guards, at Cesare, whose hand rests casually on his sword, at the Pope, whose smile hasn't wavered. There is no escape. They're led to an adjoining chamber, a room normally used for receiving ambassadors, now furnished with a bed draped in silk. The doors remain open,